We got some updates from XRP Las Vegas. We're going to get into that. We're also going to discuss this clip with Brad Garlinghouse. I wanted to look at all the connections between the IMF, the BIS, Ripple, and XRP. I got those for you in this video. I asked AI and it delivered. We're also going to look at some information about this Clarity Act that is moving its way through Congress. This is regulation, so we got to talk about it. There's also some really great XRP stuff here at the end, guys. You're going to really enjoy this. If you get any value, please hit like. Please leave a comment below. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. Thanks to your help. Let's go.
1, 2, 3.
Man, a lot of really amazing people there. I can't wait to go next time. I bet you I'm gonna go and like nobody will recognize me. I'll just have glasses on and a hat and just, you know, I'll be incognito. Oh man, Brad Garlinghouse. I really want to talk to that guy one day. I thought this was funny, right? The difference between the Bitcoin conference and the XRP Las Vegas. Now, you know, XRP obviously isn't as big as Bitcoin today, but over the next 5 to 10 years, I think XRP could be bigger than Bitcoin. I think it will be bigger than Bitcoin. It's just time will tell. And so here is some great people in the XRP community. They're getting a check here. I don't know what the check's for, but I'd imagine it's like a grant or a developer grant or something like that given from Ripple or XRP Las Vegas. Hard to know what's in those things. Did Tina say? No, she didn't say. All right, all good. Let's play this. By the way, I've got a free course that can help you become a crypto pro in under an hour. There's a link down in the description. Let me know if you're interested in taking that. A lot of you have heard this clip, so please don't leave because the information I have after this clip is going to speak volumes about what we're talking about here.
Because it requires capital to get it there. Our view in the future is you don't have to have this pre-funding, and instead you can use a digital asset to have global liquidity on demand. Now, we build
the closed captioning is messing with me. I'm sorry. Hold on.
Upon a tech stack, an open source technology called XRP. XRP, originally was built by some engineers who had seen some of the flaws of Bitcoin and the challenges of scalability around Bitcoin. Where Bitcoin today, per transaction basis, it's rather slow and rather expensive. XRP is very, very fast, about 1,000 times faster per transaction and 1,000 times cheaper per transaction. The other dynamic, of course, of correspondent banking is some of the more quote unquote exotic currencies, exotic corridors have been left to kind of stand on their own. And the liquidity in digital assets could be applied to actually make that much more democratized.
Remember the exotic corridors that Brad was talking about here? You gotta remember who he's speaking to. He is in a room filled with central bankers from all over the world. This is what got people interested in the Ripple CBDC technology. And I know there's been, some pushback in the US about a CBDC, but it's inevitable. It is inevitable because they want control. Right? Having a CBDC would give them more control, and it is the future. So let's continue. But what I wanted to say before I got sidetracked on the exotic corridors, some of these places, to move money into these places, can cost you 10, 15, or even 20%. So if you send $100 to a friend, only $80 or $85 would get through. That is a big chunk of money missing, right? You send 10,000, $2,000 is gone. And you're like, what just happened? That is what Brad is addressing here, and how these exotic corridors could be liquefied with digital assets like XRP and now RLUSD.
As a level playing field. Ripple's vision from the beginning really has been to apply these technologies in the same way that TCP/IP and HTTP are the technologies underpinning the Internet of Information. These blockchain technologies will be the underpinnings of an Internet of Value, where we have connected devices, we have connected information that will allow payments to flow. And as Norman was describing, if you're a large corporation moving $100 million, that's one thing. If you're a freelancer working in the Philippines doing design work for a company in London and you want to get paid $30 or 30 pesos, Philippine pesos, if that's not a transaction that can easily be enabled. And in fact, for the companies that enable that, they require the freelancer to set up an account, and they don't actually pay it out until there's roughly 1,000 USD sitting in that account, and then they would pay it out.
The reason a lot of merchants or business owners that pay once a month or twice a month, the reason they do that is because it's so costly to do payroll. Being able to streamline payments, I've heard David Schwartz talk about this a lot, and he says that is going to be the future. Like, when you're trying to read an article or something like that, and then it wants you to pay a monthly subscription and sign up for all this stuff. What if you could just read that article for like 50 cents or a quarter? What could you use to do that type of transaction? And this is where, streaming payments or, payments with XRP or or LUSD could come in and really help those businesses connect with those type of clients. But I wanted to better understand the connections with the IMF, the BIS, and Ripple. So I had AI pull the information, right? Here was my question. What connections do you have between the IMF, BIS, Ripple, and XRP? Here we go. The IMF has recognized Ripple and XRP blockchain for their role in supporting digital currency projects, especially in regions with limited traditional banking infrastructure. Ripple was selected to serve on the IMF's high-level advisory group on fintech. Hold on one second. Give me every blockchain company. Okay. All right, while it's doing that, let's keep reading here. It says the IMF has highlighted, high-level advisory group. I do apologize. I just want to see who else is in the group so I could give you that information live. Reflecting ongoing engagement with global regulators and policymakers, the IMF has highlighted Ripple's work with digital payment systems, such as its collaboration with the Pacific Islands nations and development of sovereign stablecoins like Palau. Palau, I believe, was a test to show the U.S. that the technology can work, and in fact, because Palau does use the U.S. dollar. Ripple's growing influence in its digital currencies in the digital currency space has been noted by the IMF, which continues to monitor and discuss Ripple's impact on global finance. Here are some of the connections that it found between the BIS and Ripple. And remember, AI, this is just pulling up the information that it sees and the sources that it has. This is probably not all the information on this subject. So Ripple has been directly involved with the BIS through the participation on the BIS Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructures, CPMI, Cross-Border Payments Task Force. Ripple's Director of Payment Operations, Renee Huijsen, is listed as a member alongside representatives from major financial institutions, payment networks like MasterCard and SWIFT and SIPS. So this group, you have some of the biggest payment infrastructures in the world, and you have Ripple. What does that tell you? The BIS was recognized XRP for meeting the standards for global payments, including messaging, unlimited liquidity, and regulatory compliance. This alignment with BIS standards positions XRP as a potential solution for cross-border transactions, offering speed, cost efficiencies, and interoperability. The Institute of Internal Finance, in its response to the BIS constellation, acknowledged Ripple and XRP as innovative infrastructure for value transfer, emphasizing their role for faster, cheaper, and alternative payments across border. It talks about Ripple's XRP role for global finance infrastructure. This Ripple's technology and XRP are being evaluated and adopted by major financial institutions for remittances and cross-border settlements. For example, SBI Remit in Japan uses XRP as a bridge currency, and Ripple has been highlighted by MasterCard for its role in improving remittance systems. Ripple is involved in discussions and pilots around central bank digital currencies, and XRP is noted for ISO 20022 compliance, a key new messaging standard for global financial transactions, which is being adopted by central banks and payment infrastructures worldwide. Ripple's partnerships span a wide range of global banks and institutions, including HSBC, the World Bank, Bank of England, Deutsche Bank, Santander, among others, demonstrating its integration into the traditional financial system. More information about the BIS and IMF. And then let's see who's on this advisory board. You have Ripple, Circle, Chainlink, and Digital Assets, Chris Church, Chief Development Officer at Blythe Masters. So in this high-level advisory group, interesting to see that you have, now two of the biggest stablecoin companies, but at the time, Ripple wasn't in stablecoins, right? This is Ryan Zagone time. Jeremy Allaire, and then Chainlink, Jill Carson, head of strategy. So these are what I'd imagine this is what the IMF is imagining is going to be used on a massive scale. We've got Brad Garlinghouse here talking I played this in another video, but it's a great clip. Let me play it for you.
I'll say some, even the XRP family, it's like, look, the Bitcoin community is not our enemy. They really are not. If they do well, we're going to do well. We might do better. It's just like, it's not a zero-sum game. And I think the one thing I learned, I was in Silicon Valley for 24 years. The one thing you learn is tech is not a zero-sum game. We're going to grow the pie. And David Schwartz was up here yesterday talking about rewiring the entire banking system and what this looks like maybe in 10 years or 20 years. We underestimate how big that change is and how profound it is. And we get there by being collaborative and working together, not against each other. Sorry, I'll shut up.
All right, and the other guy just kind of rambles for 30 seconds. There's nothing else in that clip. I wish there was. I will try to find more stuff for Brad Garlinghouse. Looks like on Wednesday at 10 a.m., the Crypto Market Structure Bill, also known as the Clarity Act, will hold a hearing on the text. So here it is, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 4 a.m. for me. Lots of fun. And then here is what is in this, because I wanted to better understand, like, is this going to be a good bill for self-custody and retail investors? Because that's who I represent here. That's who I am. So I'm really interested to know, how is this bill going to serve me in America here? And so with the crypto markets bill going through Congress, the main crypto market bill currently moving through Congress is the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, or Clarity Act of 2025. It's bipartisan legislation, aims to establish a comprehensive federal regulatory framework for digital assets in the United States, addressing long-standing uncertainty over how cryptocurrencies are related technologies should be regulated. This is regulation. This is what we've been waiting for years. The US is finally stepping up, and this is bipartisan. Republicans had to really push them here, but this is now becoming bipartisan. I just wonder where we would be if we didn't have Republicans pushing this forward. I think the conversation, on the Democratic side, I think people are getting more educated now in the crypto space, and they understand how important this technology is going to be to, future generations, and not messing it up is the most important thing. Setting this up for retail and self-custody is a very important thing, and we're going to be monitoring that. All right. So provisions of the Clarity Act, clear regulatory oversight. So basically, is it a CFTC or the SEC? Which agency is going to be responsible for each token? The CFTC is the commodity, SEC is the security. Registration and compliance. Crypto platforms, brokers, dealers, and exchanges will need to register with the appropriate regulator depending on the nature of the assets they handle. I think this is a good thing. If you have a company here in the United States, or if you're dealing in the United States, you need to be registered. So if something happens, right, scams, things like that, somebody can be held accountable. This is what we need worldwide. If they had a G20 collaboration and had every single crypto project in some of these bigger, the European Union, the UK, Australia, Singapore, wherever it is, we need to have projects registering so people can be held accountable if they, do things they're not supposed to. And I think until we start fighting back with these type of laws, we're just, it's always going to be a problem. Talks about consumer protection. The bill mandates that developers and customer facing firms provide accurate disclosures about project operations, ownership, and structure. Yes. Firms must segregate customer funds from company funds and address conflicts of interest. This is pretty much word for word what happened with FTX. They were using customer funds to do whatever they wanted, and they need to be segregated, which means separated. Exchanges are required to maintain wind down funds to protect customer assets in case of failure. Okay. Right to self-custody. This legislation explicitly protects investors' rights to self-custody, allowing individuals to hold their own digital assets in their own wallets rather than relying solely on exchanges as custodians. This is what I was looking for. We have to be able to hold our own assets, right? If this wasn't in the bill, we might be forced to bring our crypto to a bank, or a neobank, or a crypto bank, right? A fintech bank, to hold those assets. This would allow self-custody. Great. Qualified custodians. The bill sets aside for qualified digital asset custodians, requiring that under adequate supervision by regulation, federal, state, and foreign authorities, with further details provided by the CFTC. Stablecoin and payment tokens, they're already working on that. This bill clarifies that payment stablecoins are not securities and assigns regulatory authority to agency. This is good because when something is a commodity, and something is a security, there's different reporting for either asset. There's a lot more reporting for securities. You couldn't really have stablecoins working, how they do if it was a security. It would be really, it would just be so much paperwork involved. Investment contract clarification. The legislation attempts to clarify when digital assets is considered an investment contract, thus a security versus a commodity, and introduces exemptions for certain mature blockchain systems and secondary market sales, aiming to reduce regulatory ambiguity for many tokens. This bill is good for self-custody, for retail investors, consumer protections, transparency and accountability, regulatory clarity, potential concerns. Some critics note that the CFTC, while experienced with commodities and derivatives, is less consumer focused than the SEC, and all four current commissions are reportedly stepping down, which could complicate implementation. So looks like there's some shakeups happening, at the CFTC and the SEC, and how will that affect all of this? We will see. But a lot of really cool information there, guys. I hope you enjoyed going through that with me. Also, I wanted to talk to you about where Ripple is and what's next. So regulations haven't passed yet, right? We got a little excited on this, but regulations are coming. And we should have regulations passed here in the United States here in 2025. We need to identify, once the bill is signed by President Trump, how long until the bill goes into effect. Example, the MiCA bill in the European Union was passed, I believe, in April 2023. It didn't go into effect until the end of 2024, which was, 18 months after, 19 months after. And so we hope that we're not pushed out into, years to come. It needs to go in right away, and maybe give companies 3 or 6 months or to the end of the year this year to get it in. That would be an ideal timeline to really keep this bull market going. SEC case officially over. Yeah, I think a lot of people are just over this. I don't really want to talk about this too much. I just want the thing to end. So let's just move past it. Ripple partnerships announced. I think we haven't even seen some of the biggest partnerships that are to come. Ripple has $100 billion war chest. They are going to use it, right? They are too important now to fail. I think that Ripple is going to be the biggest, or if not already, one of the biggest blockchain infrastructure companies in the world. Banks will go to them for stablecoins. They will go to them for tokenization of customer assets, custodians. They will go for them for cross-border payments and remittances. They will go to them for private ledgers and everything else that they're going to need. Ripple has. My question to you is, what is Ripple going to work on next? Let me know what you think. I'm going to be looking for your answers, so please let me know what they are. Payment volumes rising. Obviously, more partnerships like Hidden Road that will create more transactions, more XRP being used, and hopefully a higher price for XRP. Tokenization, we talk about this, right? Real estate, 300 trillion, debt, 300 trillion. You have derivatives, derivatives, real value, somewhere between 15 and 20 trillion. I know it says 1 quadrillion, but that is, with all the leverage. So I'm just looking at the actual value. There's so much that can be tokenized. You could bring gold on, silver on, any type of rare earth materials. I've even seen they're wanting to go down, 4 kilometers into the ocean. There's some metal stuff that has been, growing on the floor. I don't know. I was watching this video about it, and there's all of these resources that we haven't even tapped into yet. I'm not saying that going down 4 kilometers and screwing up, the ecosystem is going to be good for the fish, but I'm saying there are things that we haven't even thought of yet that will be eventually tokenized here, and that could be a lot of value. ETF launches, we talked long and hard about this. It's going to take an effort from you and me and everybody that has an account at, Schwab, Citibank, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, all of this stuff, BlackRock. You need to ask, when will you guys have a spot XRP ETF? Get the conversation going. You have that power to pick up the phone, send an email, send in a chat, whatever you can do to get your brokerage to move forward. There's a lot of people that watch this channel between 35 and 65. That is my main demographic here. And you have a lot of the power. You have a lot of the money. So let's start using our power to get this done. US government support. I don't know how Trump is going to, what worries me is that somebody like Senator Loomis doesn't like Brad Garlinghouse, doesn't like Ripple, I believe, because of the CBDC technology. And we don't know what is being said in these smaller meetings between, party leaders. And I just hope that Ripple isn't, pushed away or pushed out because of the technology that they've worked on. So we'll see. Each event is a drop, then a stream, then a flood, right? Absolutely. Okay, a little bit more stuff, information. Here's a video here. XRP will reach $1,000. Bitcoin Maxi says, I think it was 500, but let me play it.
XRP obviously is my largest holding. It represents about actually 50% of my entire portfolio. I've been stacking that about 5 years. And I have that short-term and long-term vision for XRP. In a couple of years, I want to dump a lot of it, but I want to keep some of that for the next 5 or 10 years because I see the potential with remittance payments and moving money around the world in under 5 seconds for a fraction of a penny. And from a technical standpoint, XRP could definitely be worth $100 to $1,000, honestly, in the next 10 years, just depending on obviously how cycles mature. We can't exactly put our finger on timing, but if we look at what Bitcoin's done, what Ethereum's done, how they respect those Fibonacci extensions over time, I think that's entirely possible.
All right. Also here, Tron Stablecoins. Looks like RLUSD is coming to Tron. The reason being China's overwhelming Tron dominance, more than 90%, likely influences cross-border payment decisions. Looks like Tron is heavily used inside of China and countries that surround it. And so it looks like RLUSD might be coming to Tron and a theater near you. I thought this was a good, just regular clip, 45 seconds, talking about the importance of cryptocurrency. I think it's good to play. Let me play it.
Finance was one of the first industries to embrace blockchain. It's easy to see why. Blockchain can streamline transactions and reduce costs. Cross-border payments become faster and cheaper. This is a huge benefit for individuals and businesses. Decentralized finance, or DeFi, is another game changer. DeFi platforms allow users to lend, borrow, and trade cryptocurrencies. They do this without traditional intermediaries like banks. Tokenization is another exciting application. Blockchain can represent real-world assets digitally. This includes things like stocks, bonds, and even real estate. This makes it easier to buy, sell, and trade these assets. Blockchain is transforming the financial landscape, making it more accessible, efficient.
All right, this has been posted. I've seen a few people copy this. Ripple Inclusion, the U.S. Crypto Strategic Reserve. I put the document into AI, and a lot of stuff here is wrong. So XRP is officially a U.S. Strategic Reserve. Evidence supported. It says no. No official confirmation. Only Bitcoin is explicitly named. Other assets are only included if seized. So the US's plans is only to buy Bitcoin at this time. Government is proactively buying or holding XRP. No evidence of proactive acquisition, only seized assets held, which is not a lot of XRP. XRP inclusion signals institutional legitimacy. That is actually accurate. There's speculation and debate about XRP's potential, but no official endorsement. A list of included coins. So another problem here. It does look like benefits of XRP of institutional demand legitimacy. There are formal outcomes such policy were enacted but remain speculative. Summary: the U.S. government has established a strategic Bitcoin reserve and a digital asset stockpile, but only Bitcoin is officially managed as a strategic reserve asset. Other cryptocurrencies, including XRP, are only held if seized, not proactively acquired or endorsed. So they're not here to support American businesses or American blockchains, at least not yet. That's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. There is significant speculation and debate about XRP's potential role in U.S. reserves, fueled by political statements and private discussions. So, hearsay. The document appears to conflate speculation, political statements, and the actual legal status of XRP, presenting unconfirmed possibilities and established facts. So, it's really simple to, use this stuff, guys. If you're interested in using AI, I personally like Perplexity. I'm not paid by them or anything, but I use this so much now that it's a vital tool in my research. And I hope you're figuring out how to use this stuff. Guys, I've been in crypto for 5 years. I've learned what to do and I've learned what not to do. And I've put a lot of these key details in a course that's absolutely free for you. If you're interested, you can comment down below Crypto Sensei and I will give you a link to this free course. And if you want to take your crypto journey to the next level, you can think about signing up for my community, Kryptonaires. We got new aggressive pricing and we got a lot of really amazing value that we are offering our members. Link down in the description. I'll see you guys. Aloha.